I am here today with Ed Cleveland from Manchester, Connecticut. He is the founder of the Ed Cleveland Reiki and Sound Therapy Training Center in Manchester, Connecticut, where Ed also provides individual and group sessions. And you teach about a dozen classes with Reiki and sound, correct?
And thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you.
So yeah, I teach 4 different levels of Reiki, a few different sound classes. One's holographic. Then I have a couple different levels of singing bowl training, and there's Tibetan singing bowl training, and then there's many other instruments. So I actually started combining them, which is a little bit easier to teach, by creating year programs. So within the year program, I could just adjust to all these different instruments without having all these events that people are trying to run around trying to make.
All right. Maybe just talk up a little bit louder so we make sure that we get some good audio. I know, I feel like you need to be cloned, you know, so that you can get all this, you know, we need this out there. You need to create an army of sound healers, but maybe you need to clone yourself. So we could talk about that later.
Yeah, I actually agree, because then I can also do other things, because it's hard to get things done when I'm doing things.
Right, exactly. So maybe some virtual cloning will be possible. We'll look at it. So tell me a little bit more, you know, give me a synopsis of the work, and then as the show goes on, viewers will see a series of video, you know, montage of Ed describing his work with the various instruments, and then there's also an audio portion where you talk about your path into Reiki and sound healing. And so we do have an in-depth presentation, but for now, what would the synopsis be when you meet someone in an elevator, okay?
Well, I encourage and teach people to understand where Reiki would be going in our future, and how to help themselves personally, mentally, emotionally, physically, as well as different sound training, because instruments take so long to work with that it requires a little bit more of a lengthy time to work with the instruments. But at the same time, in both classes, you're working on the mental, the spiritual, different levels and practices, and strengthening the brain to have meditative experiences to then enhance your energy flow, which is connected to everything.
Right. And, you know, it's funny because I imagine as you're on your own path and you're teaching, it can be quite challenging when you're learning and teaching at the same time.
Yes, right now I'm working on completing a 3-year course with my teacher, Mitch Nur, to become a neuroacoustic sound therapist.
Right. That's amazing. So that's pretty intensive. Right. And have you finished those 20 books that you have to read? Or are you still working on that?
I have 2 more. I've been dabbling into each one of them, but one of them is a little more lengthy. It's very scientific with sound and sort of the geometry and how they all get put together. So
you should take a picture of that bookshelf and post it on your website, because I bet you that would probably be of interest to many of the clients that come to see you, right?
Yes, great reading lists.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd be interested to see that list. Yeah. So, and that's that work that you're doing is pretty exceptional. You're saying there are only 11 students per year working with Mitch?
Yeah, he takes 11 students. Then you have to wait, and he does it once a year for each program, but there's different modules. 2 of the modules are only every other year. So depending on when you start, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years, or sometimes you just want to take your time and go through it. So you know, you don't want to rush a process, just like you wouldn't rush reading 20 books.
Right.
And it's an college level experience and study. So yeah, slow and steady is always best.
And that's Mitch, it's M-U-R is his last name, correct? I haven't had a chance to look into his work, but I am interested, and I think that if people are interested in sound healing, he would be an excellent resource, correct?
some people call him the Indiana Jones of sound.
Right.
A lot of experiences and going through different monasteries and going through the.
Well, it sounds like now I have to interview him because, you know, that sounds like it should be a movie or a book, right? The Indiana Jones of sound. I mean, you coined it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
kind of,
wonderful.
yeah. So,
Wonderful.
right. So tell me about anybody who's interested in all of the courses that you are teaching. All of your information is available at edcleveland.net, and that information will be shared, you know, along with on the program as well. So because you do so much work between the Reiki and sound classes, and you have a strong Facebook presence. You also are on Instagram. Is there other social media that you're utilizing?
Yeah, my virtual assistant puts me on MailChimp to have a lot of other events, and I'm also a member of the New London Drone Orchestra.
That's right. Yeah. So that maybe we could talk about another time because that's fascinating as well. But you are, Ed, what's your handle on Instagram?
I believe it's going under Ed Reiki Free.
Right. You could probably look you up by Ed Cleveland as well. So, but you have some great stuff, and you use a little video and audio. So I always, I love to, you know, I love to get those kind of, you know, posts. I enjoy that. So I'm sure others do as well.
Yeah.
So you were going to share some work with the Monochord today.
Yeah, I took it out. I know during your session you mentioned something about the different chanting that I was doing, so I would like to share the experience with other people.
Right. And I should mention that yesterday I had a sound healing session. Now, does that include Reiki? Because that's how you work. It wasn't necessarily a Reiki session, or is it combined? I don't understand.
Yes, Reiki doesn't necessarily always have to be hands-on. It can be hands-on, it could be hovering above, you get through a distance.
All right.
I'm also doing it through the sound because sound actually can record the symbols and projecting out. Reiki can come through your eyes by just looking at a person, sending out that unconditional love. So yeah, it was in the mix.
That's interesting. That's fantastic.
So this is a Monochord. This is a large one.
Right.
40 inches. And I have it set up to kind of do a little bit lower notes or frequencies than your average tuning. So I tune it in a softer string, so it provides more calming, soothing emotions being passed on to the listener. And I kind of do a little chant with it and kind of see what happens.
Okay. What if you should pull back from the mic a little bit? If it was, maybe.
Okay.
Try it there, yeah. That's better.
Yeah, then I play a little louder when I go into my zone.
Right, it
Zen
missed
mode.
the electronics. The sounds interfere with the electronics somehow.
Yes, the gongs, working with the metal, sometimes works with the magnetism, which can throw off electrical signals.
All right.
So I go through a lot of challenges with technology when I'm doing this work.
Right. That's fantastic. Well, I have to say I appreciate your work so much, and I am hoping that a lot of people will find you. I know that you're teaching a lot of people. You were right here in Bristol last week, correct? Bristol, Connecticut?
Yeah, I was at Bristol Hospital working with people that had severe lung diseases and breathing problems. So calming the mind helps calm the breath, which reduces hypertension, anxiety, and lowers the blood pressure.
And so that's great that you're in Bristol Hospital and you're traveling to a lot of sites like that in Connecticut, in the Northeast as well, or mostly Connecticut?
Yeah, I move around a lot. I do a couple things in New York. I'm kind of venturing out to Massachusetts, but I've been also going out there for some other additional classes that I take. And then I've been working towards the Rhode Island border, so working in a number of different directions.
So would your, you know, is there a pretty good ecosystem, say, for these holistic type of businesses here in the Northeast, would you say?
Yes, yeah. People that I call it live in the world of plenty. We get together with other people, we share things, we share experiences and knowledge, and we help each other grow. So it's always a wonderful thing when we're working with other people. I'm encouraging the understanding of what we're doing to our community.
Right. Is that like a Reiki share, or I've heard of Reiki shares. They seem to be posted in a lot of different places. But
yeah, I actually started doing a few things that are very similar to a Reiki share. Doing them with the chanting, with the Kodadama as a person who's in the center, so it's like a Reiki
right.
And now I'm doing the soundscape for the summer solstice soundscape. So we're going to work with a lot of indigenous instruments.
Right.
And people get to lay in the center, and it's again like a Reiki share.
Right. Extra special.
Yeah.
So you're doing both of those at your facility there in Manchester?
Yes,
right. Okay. So, but I'll have to get up to one of those for sure. And this Thursday you're doing the solstice thing, or is that a different day?
Yeah, this Thursday.
Right.
And then I do things in at different locations, different yoga studios. They'll have me go there, and then I can take these events that I already have established and do them in different locations.
Again, I wanted to thank you for all your time this week. You've been a fantastic teacher, and I hope that we're able to reach a lot of people through my fledgling effort here with Conscious Creator.
Yes, I thank you for all your time and efforts.
Thank you, Ed. I'll see you again. I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All righty. Bye-bye.
The sound of the cymbals, which again, that predates the symbols. So it'd be like, there's 4 Kodadamas specifically for Reiki, and then there's 75 in total. One of them is so you would chant a few times. It brings out the spirit of the word, or understanding and knowing the universe through sound. So we'll get together with people and I'll teach them the chant, and everybody will get a set of 3 bowls, and then everybody will play the bowls all at the same time, and we'll do the chant together. So we're working in harmony, we're working with our voice, it's vibrating our thymus gland, which boosts our immune system, connecting with the actual sound while we're using the voice to connect with the sound of the symbol to then be generated into the air. And then we put a treatment table in the center for a person to lay down and actually receive the sound and the chanting. So it's like a supercharged Reiki share, utilizing the sound, utilizing the chants, and then the different bowls. Here's another set. And again, everything is matched within a harmony to work with each other to bring out harmony. kind of want to know that in playing for another person, because if you chose, I'm going to do this on purpose, if I chose something like this, it doesn't quite sound as in harmony. It's, yes, they're bowls, you're playing bowls, but if they're not really working together, you're not going to get the same results as somebody, which is why we have the training and the understanding of that.
So this collect.
Have some monochords, work with monochords out there. This is a high-end bowl, which means it has a lot more harmonics in it than some of the other bowls.
Beautiful.
You also, in a higher end bowl, you'll have male and female voices, and you want to try to get them to match. So this showing both the voices, the male and the female, and they'll ascend and descend together. And then different mouths will create different sounds, which will bring out the richness and the harmonics and the microtonality and the overtones. That's what you're looking for in a sound healing instrument. Not just a crashing cymbal that makes a lot of sound or noise. You want the harmonics in the noise. Crystals help to amplify energy. Crystals, I have a whole set of crystal singing bowls on the side. They're different gemstone bowls. Crystals have their own vibration. Crystals are used in all of our telecommunications and cell phones and computers. They store, they transfer, they conduct information. Our body is also mostly salt,
Right.
which is crystalline, which again helps you with your cellular memory, how to allow the body to send the chemical electromagnetic signals throughout the body. So the crystals can help amplify that. We use the crystals, they're kind of like a battery, which is why they need to be recharged, either by the moonlight or one of the quickest ways to recharge would be through the sound, because the sound is very, very high vibrational. So actually the sound is supercharging the crystals. So you're working with the elements during the Reiki or with the sound, because sickness or disease or illness, disease, usually is meaning a lack of one of the elements.
Right.
So if you can decide which is the element that is needed to be used,
Right.
then you can create more water sounds, or you can create more wind sounds. So I have that whole variety of different sounds
That's
here.
fascinating. I didn't realize that at all. I didn't know that you worked with the elements that way.
This is an ocean harp, so it makes ocean sounds. I have ocean drums, and they have different mounts that I can use on the gong to actually sound like whales and dolphins. So if I can bring the beach to you while you're in this session, you're actually going to the beach. You know, so if you provide the sounds. If you provide the certain wind sounds, then you can find yourself out in the woods. Sometimes I'll
And your
use my
brain doesn't know the
voice.
difference if you're visualizing.
Yeah. When your eyes are closed, that offers you that spaciousness to go into altering or changing consciousness, which again is why it's kind of important to have an education, because when you're dealing with changing people's consciousness, you need to know a little bit about that.
Yeah. Because you're always working for the greater good of all, and you know, the higher self, and you know, the best outcome and all that.
Would you like to get some water so you can hear?
Yeah.
Well, that goes all the way back into Greek mythology, so that's been used to go in and calm all kinds of different things. The monochord, I happen to hear about, well, actually it goes back into Pythagoras tuning, using the monochord, the single string, which uses to figure out the vibration of a harmonic series of creation. It was based on the monochord. But then I learned about monochord therapy and using it on a person's back to open up the blockages in the spine to allow chemical electromagnetic signals to flow through. Also, a person going through chemotherapy, they have a lot of mind chatter about why did they get sick, and all of this, which is depression, and what's going to happen after this, finances in my body, which leads to anxiety. And when you're going through the toughest struggle of your life, being present is very, very important. So anything that you can do to help that person stay present is going to help amplify the body's natural need and wanting to heal itself. So the so-called sound healer, it's not really is providing something, but what we're doing is we're educating, or we're trying to help a person open up their own innate ability to make their body want to heal itself.
Right.
So it's not necessarily...
Which our body does want to do,
Yeah.
if you give it the right amount.
So this is an ocean harp.
So cool. What would you determine as somebody who would need more water?
A person that has too much air, too much fire, because fire can help put out water. Water is very, very good because of most of our body, we're dehydrating. We also don't get enough physical water. Plus all the different aspects of water in general. Even like when we go to take a shower, if you can imagine that instead of the water going down the drain, that the shower of water is working with your energy field, because it's going through, helping you with release negative ions, which boost your immune system and your energy field itself. But that mixing of it with a person that does Reiki, you're now charging that water. It goes down the drain, but you can envision or ask it to go ahead and start to cleanse the water treatment centers, which water evaporates, so it rises up in the clouds, which then rains upon fields and farms and animals. And
So with your thoughts, you're asking that water to continue to heal the planet,
yes,
if we can.
go much further.
Right.
So the television.
And our intentions can change matter, so.
So that
Good idea, thank you for telling me, I'll get on that.
mix with the rivers and oceans and crystals too. If you program or set your intentions with a crystal and then you donate it and throw it into the water, it's going to continue to work with the water. And the water again evaporates, comes down, and then this helps with the cycle, feeds bees, feeds every world,
Good to know,
so on and so forth.
that's awesome.
Either during the full moons, or they do the 21-day walk, or even the 40-day walk, where they carry the conch shells to blow, to signal, not only for different animals that they were coming through, but the sounds themselves. It's a very, very high-pitched sound that universities actually have proven that it destroys bacteria in the air. So when the lamas, monks, or gatherings of people would blow them around water holes before they went into the water, they're also helping to cleanse and to alter, change the water before they worked with themselves. This is a wind instrument, so providing a sound of a wind.
So say if someone had a cold or a wet cough, so would you say in that instance they would need air, or if someone's talking so much, does that mean they have too much air?
Well, there's a lot of times people have or chest breathers, so we don't really get a lot of oxygen in the lower part of the body, so we actually need longer, deeper, slower breaths. But also, like colicky babies, they're not able to sleep, so if you were able to provide a sound of a wind instrument while they're trying to sleep, they're going to harmonically match to that, and that can actually help colicky babies. So there's so many different things. Again, the more I study, the more I learn, the more I realize how little we all know, which keeps that feed and that drive going. And then sometimes you know, when you get actual facts, because things are always evolving, sometimes those facts aren't necessarily as important anymore.
Right.
Because newer ones take their place and then have a whole different meaning.
Right.
So
So part of this is regaining maybe some of the lost knowledge, but also integrating new knowledge. So you have a lot of different, you got a lot to cover.
I like to call it the warehouse of knowledge that you have. So when you're working with each person, every person is different. So one person may like this singing bowl, but another person may like the crystal singing bowl, another person might like the gong. But having a knowledge of different instruments and different things to do, then you can pick out what is best served for that person at that time. And then for Justin, if you do open up a very old blockage or trauma that maybe even a person forgot about, maybe a specific sound, like all of a sudden this jingling brought them back to an ice cream truck where they got hit by a car, you know, something had happened, that would release that trauma right there. So the person that's working with the sound and energy needs to also know things about trauma, because we have to deal with this on the spot.
Right.
If you don't know that, you can't just, if you send the person home, you know, there's a level of responsibility, you know,
Right.
In that as well.
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's,
And so I imagine as you're learning, because you're teaching and learning really all at the same time, right?
yes.
And your clients are teaching you, right? As you're healing them, and then that's must be some process to go through to.
Yeah, it's when working with a client, we're actually listening to their needs, we're listening to the space, and that would actually, with the quieting of the mind, be able to know which instrument I should go ahead and
Gotcha.
play to work with them as well. So
Because you're working with guides as well, or how does that work? I know, because I work with a shaman, and she does download stuff and channel, you know.
there's many ways up the mountain, and the umbrella that we're all working in.
Right.
So the more modalities used, one of my modalities is holographic sound healing. I got a master teacher in that works with the angelic realms, and works with the Egyptian sounds, the vowel sounds, to be able to use those sounds, because you always have an instrument, which is your voice. So you can project certain sounds or tones and even add in the feelings of that. So during that class, we would pick a certain sound, we would project something that would be like serenity. So we learn how to use that sound with our voice, which actually would give that person a response of feeling serenity. And then we mix it back and forth, that we learn how to play those. So when you're working with a person that's very, very upset, or if you open up that blockage and they become upset, you then have tools to then help to calm, to bring them back down, and to analyze and talk about what had happened, to kind of work that in that moment, you know, again, before they leave, because it just happened to be with
Right.
you that's.
And typically, do clients, there may be expecting that something like this might come up, or does it sometimes surprise people, take them by surprise?
Some people, a lot of people will ask at the end, well, what did you get? What did you hear? What did, and everybody has different gifts. Mine is listening and learning what to play, how to play, when, how loud to play. Some people like it louder because they need to kind of shake some things up. Some people like it subtler because they have some maybe tendinitis. So now I'm working with certain sounds, not to aggravate that, but to actually help open up other channels, because there actually is a channel in your ear that's only meant to hear overtone sounds, and it sends those signals right to the auditory cortex. And when you're not hearing overtone sounds, that can be blocked or clogged. So therefore, some of those sounds may be irritating, but when you learn how to kind of open and open that channel,
Right.
that can help alleviate some of those sounds. Or sometimes we could just have ear damage that then we have to work in a different direction.
Can sound healing help people with tinnitus?
Yes.
That's really interesting.
I've Googled every different ailment that people have asked, and 99% of the time it comes up that it does address it, from autism. I worked with kids with Asperger's, ADD,
So it's calming for them, or for different, you have different symptoms and different reactions.
Yeah, and a different knowledge of how to use a specific instrument can help with different things as well.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, like I had very very active, I like to call them children of all learning abilities,
Right.
Come in, and I knew that he was very anxious, so I had him smell some essential oils that was very very sedative. One of them is called Buddha wood. It's very, very calm, helps to calm the mind, so I had him smell that. I gave the information to the mother so she could see what it was, and so she would know just to have it on her records. Then I brought him to the room, I had the door open, he laid on the ground. I asked permission to place this on his back because I already gained confidence and in what we were doing, and supporting safety was always a concern. So I put this on top, and I just started strumming,
It's beautiful.
and he took a deep breath in, he had a big release, he spread his shoulders, and he said, I love my meditation, and he just relaxed and calmed down. When 10 minutes ago he was jumping in every puddle in the parking lot. And Mom was like, thank you. She was. So what, normally I have a little table, I do it a certain way, but basically if you took these to the ocean and you worked on mimicking the sound, and if you brought these to the ocean, you're basically getting the ocean in your body, you're remembering the feeling and how to play. So then when you play for another person, you're bringing the ocean into them, but you're also allowing them to go to the ocean. So that's where the beauty comes in. And then doing it in a gentle way. Again, if one person is doing some of these, and another person is making some wind sounds, another person is doing a light bell or a chime, another person is doing a string instrument or a harp, it's a beautiful soundscape. The person on the table is just like, you want to give a person the, basically when they get off the table, they're like, I don't have words to what just happened.
Right.
That's the goal.
Right.
to give a person an experience that they can't put
And recording some of that is never going to, you're not going to reach that experience. It has to be, in person. You can.
They're all at the same level. So when we're playing the different bowls, the sound is going right off the side, so a person is right there on that same horizontal plane. I've had people say that they felt like they were floating on a lake of water of sound, and that it was just beautiful. They've gone to different drumming circles and things like that, but there was just something that was.
It's really powerful
because there's so many different things. Plus the room, the shape, the size of the room, understanding how the sound moves through air. So understanding that this room is like a ocean or pool of air, to be able to move the sound in a certain way will get the flow to come back. So finding the certain spots that allows that to happen is important. Just like the opposite, when I teach sound classes, I have people think of dropping pebbles in a fish tank and watching the ripples roll out. Well, the water goes out, then interacts with the container, and then comes back in, and they work off of the other ripples too, which is understanding how the sound waves are moving. But what happens in the corners is the waves flutter. So if you were doing a sound meditation and people's heads were in the corner and you're playing a little bit louder, those are the people that are probably going to leave saying they have a headache, because your brain is floating in fluid, And that shaking, your ears, the whole equilibrium, it's going through a lot. So having the understanding of sound, how it works, how it moves around the room, would tell a more experienced person, I need you not to put your head in the corner. We're going to
Right.
turn you around. Personalized. I always start asking, not necessarily for what their story is, but I ask them, what are you here for? What are you looking to relieve? What are you here to help release? What are the areas of concern in your body?
Right.
So then that will give you an idea. But at the same time, they're giving themselves permission to work on that. Because an energy worker is supposed to have permission to do the work. But at the same time, you're giving the person permission to themselves to allow their body to go. So even if I was playing just some sounds and they knew that they were here to help release ABC in their life because it has discomfort, and they're feeling this pleasure and the joy from all the different sounds, sometimes I'll have to say certain things like, I want you to say to yourself, I am safe, I am secure, I am in perfect health, no matter what is going on, and all my needs are met. And just continue to say that, and that's like speaking to the water in your body. You're playing those comfortable sounds, a person is focusing on their breathing. Sometimes I'll just start making some of my own sounds, going into the Egyptian part with the vowel sounds. I've even had fire trucks, because there's a fire station in the hospital, come by, and I don't want to lose the person in the room. So I learned how to make sounds with my own voice that somewhat mimic that, but keep them in the room by changing the way it sounds. So that will come and go, but then I'll keep remaking. So it kind of holds them there, and they like, oh, that was amazing, because you just, it like popped in, and it was gone. You just made these different sounds.
That's really cool.
So that's that actually falls into a science, or when you don't necessarily have to play a big gong loud, but you can hear the softer sounds much easier. Through a larger gong. And if you're doing energy work, like Reiki, a person will energy out their hands, they're always facing the person. So if I'm on the side, I'm playing into the heart of the gong's making a sound. Well, that's where my energy work is also going too. So I'm applying the Reiki through the gong. But if I play the gong the opposite way to the wall, if I'm doing energy work,
Right.
it's not going to the people sound. And so there's a little, these are some things that again, that we're taught.
Right.
It's
Because
a different sound. It goes from the treble into the bass. So we actually play every single little, we learn every little single spot, so we can find the different nodal points that sound different than other points, and then be able to use those to create more sounds. So an experienced person can get a real lot of sound out of one gong, where an inexperienced person will need a lot of gongs to be able to make a lot of different sounds. So it's
are there
safe.
different notes for different gongs?
They have primary fundamental notes, but there can also be second and third, 2 or 3 primaries. But the sound also changes. So if I put the meter on it, you would get right there, you could probably get 100 different sounds because of everything that's happening within
So
there.
powerful.
So using all the different mouths, you're getting more sound. So that multiplication, basically it's like a round piano. So when you're striking a gong, you can be playing all the different notes.
Beautiful.
And that's with a thick, a handmade, has different thicknesses, and every part is different because it's hammered. So each part can have a different sound. If it was a plate metal gong, the thickness is all the same. So you don't get as many different harmonics out of it. They're actually, they're within the second harmonics. So it's basically like using a few notes on a piano versus the whole piano. Because it's the same thickness of sound. And series, they actually tune them, so they scrape them to create a certain frequency, because that's when the hypes, you know, to create plant. So then they're actually taking more sound out of something that already has less sound than a handmade gong. And they charge you more for it.
Beautiful. The sound is so beautiful.
So this has a wonder, it just, the energy just blossoms, just rises.
Do you have any recordings?
I do from the drone orchestra.
Right.
Nothing. I'll have them go up to scale, have them go down, I'll have them switch hands. But kids with, say, Asperger's, once they learn how to do something, they pretty much gotta stay doing that. So when I start to turn it, I'll watch and I'll see their facial expression, like, you know, they're struggling a little bit, which I want. I kind of go into that area, but still have them say, but you're still making beautiful music. Even though life is not going exactly the situation, the pattern that you thought each and every day is going to go, but you can still have beautiful things happen with the day that doesn't fall into that path. So that kind of helps.
That's nice. That's awesome. It's like a little xylophone, or?
Yeah, it's called Free Notes. Earlier you were asking about the talking. Sometimes, you know, I'll say a little bit of things. I've started singing This Little Light of Mine, and sometimes also people cry like, oh, that was pride. I really need to hear that. So I'm just listening to what needs to be heard. This is another monochord. It sounds like a sitar.
That's beautiful. Difference between the crystal and the
crystal bowls will have one specific sound. So this is a C in the fourth octave. It'll always stay a C in the fourth octave. The gong, I'll hit it and it's all over the place because it's got the same thing as singing bowls. And the singing bowls, the Tibetan style, the metal, that depending on the alloy or how well they're made, they'll have more voices in them. So some of the ones that are just stamped out, yeah, they still make a sound, but they don't have a lot of variation in that sound. So a person that has more experience and wants to do more things in sound healing would want something with more sound. So in these, you're playing them in a certain way. So I could do that for
sound like church bells.
And probably a person will fall asleep. People say that's the sacral chakra, but this is a D. It's so much higher because it's in a different octave. This is a third octave. This is a fourth octave. This is a fifth octave. So there's sets in all these different octaves, and so that's kind of where people hear, I need to have this, or I learned something on the internet, so I want to work with that. But it's really, really important to actually be in front of these and feel which one do you like.
Right.
So right now when I'm playing,
I like that blue one, that small blue one.
This one?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So you wouldn't know that buying it over the internet.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's a D, but you may end up getting this D because you don't necessarily know it's going to come in which octave. And then how to sing it.
So calming.
Working how to make that sound. This would be a level 1 class. I teach people how to make nice peaceful sounds for meditation. Then level 2, once you learn how to play them, now you're basically playing another crystal bowl that makes the one sound, but because you're able to hold it, you can now again use the air. And I can actually use the air to keep it going.
That's beautiful.
So if you were, now I work with on a more of a therapeutic level. So if a person was on treatment table and their head was over here, I could work with this to help to calm and clear some thoughts. So I'm kind of going and grabbing their attention, and as I slowly move away, the sounds move away in their head. They're hearing the sound go away, go away, go away, go away, but they don't realize that it's actually drawing out what their deep thought was or their concern.
Nice.
You know, what are you here to release? And we work on moving that.
That's awesome.
Also work on hearing, so you can kind of flick it towards one ear, flick it towards the other ear, in that category. And then there's these, which are Tingshas or Nagani bells. But these again were adopted by Buddhism. This is a Bonpo instrument. And they're only supposed to be played at certain times of the year, and you're supposed to know the mantras to them. But they're in a lot of yoga studios, and people don't know the mantras, and they don't know everything that they're supposed to know about using these instruments.
They're beautiful.
I took 2 classes on these to make sure I got it right, because there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of important work that you can do with these. Can't really explain more about that
Right.
into some of the training, but it is important that you know the mantras in working with these instruments.
That's fascinating.
One of the funny things is the third level I learned was called Being Reiki. Some people call it Advanced Reiki Training, ART. Some people don't even have that level. Again, there's a day class. A person chooses what to decide to work on.
Right.
I like to do a lot of different exercises. I want people to feel the energy. I want to work on seeing it, doing different aspects of that. But again, you're limited to that amount of time,
Right.
which is why I created my year-long Reiki program, because now I don't necessarily have to follow those guidelines of just cramming everything in those few hours.
Right.
So now we mix it up and I rotate the classes so a person is actually getting a lot more information. You know, it said that you should take a year to learn to get your Reiki masters and have a couple of different classes in between. But doing it each and every month, I offer 1 to 2 classes every month all the way through, that the person is learning just a lot of different information. This month we're working how to teach kids and actually putting together a whole kids program. So one person just came into the class, and it works out perfect because we're teaching how to teach kids, and she just came in, and you know, that's at the beginning stage. I got another student that's already been in a couple of classes, but we're teaching also people how to teach. So now she's learning, because now she's getting little reviews here and there, so she's understanding her communication, how she can explain it to other people, how she's going to create her own program to be able to teach what she chooses to teach. So this is going to bring out a much more of a confident, experienced, skillful Reiki master teacher, which is something that we're aiming for as that lifestyle, because this is something that you're always doing. That's basically where Reiki's going in our future. We want things to change. We want things to be more of a lifestyle. There's too many times people say, I took a Reiki class and I forgot everything, or I don't feel comfortable in it, or every time I'm doing work on a person, I feel all their stuff, you know, or I feel exhausted. So there's a lot of different things that you would learn in a longer program on how to
And the students, in that year-long program, they're working together, the students with you? Multiple students, so they're learning from each other as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful.
Yeah. The people that have been there longer, again, they're seeing it from a different angle, because they already took it. There's nothing wrong with little reviews. I'm not reviewing the whole class.
The mind of the beginner.
Yeah. In martial arts, you know, if I was a martial arts teacher, you have a certain amount of basics, and you're putting basics together in different ways to then make it more exciting. You know, so you're still working on the basics, but you're learning new stuff that's in between. So I'm able to teach all levels because of the rotation that I teach. And I do the same thing with sound. We'll work a certain instrument, and the next one we'll work a different instrument. Sometimes we'll blend the two together.
Right.
So wherever you come in, you're still going to learn something. And I offer the class at more affordable price for each month than versus just the day class.
Right.
So.
And so it was interesting. Did you just start doing constellations yourself, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I saw that. I've been doing constellations with down in Trumbull for a little bit, but I met Wayne. So I was keeping an eye on what he was doing, and so that seems interesting. And tell me a little bit about what you're using.
Yeah, Wayne's coming here Wednesday. So what we did is I start off doing a brief description of what sound is and how we're using the soundscape. And it works perfect for what he's doing because he's setting up the area once he sets and opens up the intention. So it's really working in conjunction with each other, just a different language, but the language is a universal language that understands. And then at the end, when people are felt everything that had happened and all the different releases and you learning from other people, watching another person go through their challenges, you're really realizing you have those same things, and some of those answers are your answers too. So then I finish with a sound meditation, which is locking and absorbing all that in. It's kind of preparing to close the sacred space, because you want to open the sacred space to do work, and then you want to close it to finish and absorb, so that final sound piece really helps it integrate into your being,
Right.
into the cellular level, so everything makes more sense. And let's say a person had a release, and there's a little bit of trauma came out from going through the work, the meditation will definitely help bring them back into feeling much better about themselves and about the work that they just did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that addition.
I do a little description on how to work certain instruments, but let people gather around and pick an instrument and then kind of use it. So this is a rain stick. It sounds a little bit different, almost like seashells. Right? And also move it.
That's fantastic.
So you can go closer to a person. You can kind of wave it around them, kind of like a wand or like a brooming them, going closer or away. Those last couple little tiggles, stops, those right there. I like to do that right by the head at the end, because it just makes your brain just have this little, which is its own little release, like little, like your spine can just like open up and have a little adjustment.
Beautiful.
So if each person is making a different sound again, we then work off each other. So you're working on that spaciousness, and then people can jump in the center. And at the same time, talk a little bit about some of the history of some of the instruments and how that they can be used.
All right.
So you're getting education, you're getting learning how to use instruments.
Similar, another version?
Yeah. So this is more of a typical sound.
Surprised you ever leave this room.
I have a lot of people don't want to leave when they get here. Again, the Sound Museum.
Yeah.
He has a few guest people coming in, and one of them is the Bonpo Lama that's going to be showing his part on how to...
Here?
No, in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, all right.
Yeah. And he's actually doing something at the end of this month, so that'll be my third time working with him. It's just incredible, but it's really unique because people come in and say, I'm working with kids, or I'm working with this, and I need a certificate saying that I work with sound. Like, all right, well, I have this year program. No, I need it quick. Like, all right, well, you have a singing bowl class, you can take that and get a certificate. And like, yeah, that's all I need, which is fine. But a person that really wants to do more really should, learn more.
Go deeper, yeah.
And in our classes, we did play the gongs for 10 days, and the 7 days of the learning, 7 days of the mind. Now, after all, this is 3 years later, now we're actually going to work on people. We got to learn all, plus read 20 books before we get to work on people, then we go for our masters. His thing is, we are teaching people for our future, or he's teaching the teachers of our future. So, I'm teaching, another round.
Right.
He only takes 11 people a year out of the United States. People who come in out of...
What is his name?
Mitch Nur.
Does he write as well, or?
He's a PhD. He's a researcher. He's like the Indiana Jones of sound.
Wow.
He tells stories about being in the jungles and working with the shamans, and there's just incredible experiences. But he has something else called the Sound Worker Cookbooks. There's 4 chapters. So I've had a couple of the chapters here where we just worked on a couple of instruments, and then the next chapter we were on a couple of different ones. So we're really aiming at the history, the authenticity, and he has his collection is more like a museum quality. So he brings in the very old, very rare instruments. I actually held the Long Life Mantra book, the script. I held some very original, authentic Reiki pieces, that he did in his class, and it's just incredible.
Wow.
So that's on top of all the other classes that I got. But this titanium bowl, I learned, there's another titanium in the corner, that I was working with a person that had a titanium hip replacement. And when I came around with this bowl, she said that her hip got really hot. Like so hot that she was going to raise her hand saying there was something wrong. She didn't. She sat with it and she kind of followed the sound. She's just watching what was going on. And then when eventually I descended into the sound, she said that the heat went away. And when the heat went away, the chronic pain that she's had for the last 3 years went away too. And she went to all these doctors after she had the hip replacement. They couldn't do anything but get her medication. She was trying to get herself, she was going into the sober life. She was getting off all the, I'm just going to have to...
Do you think it was like a past life injury or something? Who knows?
There's a couple ways that you can think of it. What I got was the titanium in the bowl helped to merge the titanium sound. So I was kind of feeling that the natural vibration of the titanium implant was thrown off somehow while it was being implanted, and then the sound of this was of the same
That resonance, and
to now get that back.
maybe it accept, yeah.
The other thing is that maybe it got to vibrate a little bit, that maybe there was a nerve stuck and that vibration helped to stick it, so it could go into, I had 2 little kids. I lost my job, I got injured. Mom wasn't capable of being around the kids, so I went to a bookstore and I said I surrender. I got 2 little kids, I need to do the right thing, I'm trying, I need some direction. And there was a book that was kind of a little bit lighter than all the other books, and it was a book on Reiki. So I read it and immediately called and went in and started that journey.
So interesting.
And then now I'm going into my 3rd year with the gongs to go ahead and get my gong masters. I'm learning how to work with people with cancer, because this is some of the newest technology in helping fight cancer. Is the sound.
So how many years was that journey? Since
that part was from 2002 on, but from high school I started working with martial arts on chi energy to break things.
So you were already there in a different vein.
And the ability to focus and concentrate, and the discipline of hard work and practice on achieving something. But also learning on this chi energy flow thing, which I never really understood. But obviously you can use it to break cinder blocks and boards, and then
Right.
I got busted up. So I was like, all right, now I got to heal myself. So then I started learning the other side of it.
Right. That's fascinating.
But these were made for medicine. So Ayurvedic medicine, when you use these, it's the aloe that mixes with whatever you put in it. So the herbs, the different liquids, you're making medicine. So it was the medicine that you're using for healing before the sound. Then the blacksmith class actually had a mystery school teaching part where they learned about the sound and then taught them that aspect. But originally it was all about what was in there.
That's amazing.
Which is why this is so valuable. This is a singing bowl wand made from 200 singing bowls
Wow.
of a very old alloy, which is only found in high Himalayas. It's a red V copper, and this copper is mythical. Emperors and they used to make their all their silverware, their cups, their bowls, out of this alloy because they believed that they were going to get poisoned at this. And then just close your eyes. Just focus on your breathing. Losing their hearing, when you touch a vibrating metal, it actually opens up a channel in your ear to allow you to hear a little bit more, because we hear with our skin, we hear with our bone, we hear with our ears, and in our inner ear. So you're actually merging now a couple of them, which actually amplifies deep listening, plus the fact that there's so many different sounds. Every place has a different sound. It encourages you
sucker for all of this, and I know nothing about it, but it's beautiful.
So you can't get the live version of What happened a week from there was the Reiki class at Kripalu, and I was laid off, so I was collecting. I had babysitters, but they were doing the Reiki 1, 2, and 3. 3 was being Reiki, not masters, and the book said that there's a rule that you have to wait 21 days. And so I called to ask, and the lady at the counter said, well, the teacher just happens to be walking by. Would you like to talk to her? I told her what was going on with my kids, and once I got to work, I wouldn't be able to take that time off again. So she said, then life set you up, you need to come. And of course, a year later, I did get my master's, but yeah. I train a lot of people. I teach probably 11 different classes, so between all those different classes. And then I have the private sessions or group sessions, but then I also teach like teachers, and I go into universities, and next week I'm going into Bristol Hospital, and I have another function, New Haven, a couple other places that are...
So how do you keep all that straight at this point, because you're so busy?
I have a business coach.
Good. that helps.
Helps me keep on track. But
right.
Yeah, I'm pretty.
Because you got a lot happening, and so you're also doing healing sessions. You're teaching, and these you transport these too.
Yeah, I had to get a bigger, newer, bigger vehicle to support, and one of the rules is don't buy a glide and can't lift. So I figured out how to, that's the largest one, 54 inch, on how to lift it. It just fits in my truck on a slight angle so I can transport it, but there's 4 Kodamas specifically for Reiki, and then there's 75 in total. One of them is So you would chant a few times. It brings out the spirit of the word, or understanding and knowing the universe through sound. So we'll get together with people, and I'll teach them to chant, and everybody will get a set of 3 bowls, and then everybody will play the bowls all at the same time, and we'll do the chant together. So we're working in harmony, we're working with our voice, it's vibrating our thymus gland, which boosts our immune system, connecting with the actual sound while we're using the voice to connect with the sound of the symbol to then be generated into the air. And then we put a treatment table in the center for a person to lay down and actually receive the sound and the chanting. So it's like a supercharged Reiki share, utilizing the sound, utilizing the chants, and then the different bowls. Here's another set. And again, everything is matched within a harmony to work with each other to bring out harmony. You kind of want to know that in playing for another person, because if you chose, I'm going to do this on purpose, if I chose something like this, it doesn't quite sound as in harmony. It's, yes, they're bowls and you're playing bowls, but if they're not really working together, you're not going to get the same results as somebody, which is why we have the training and the understanding of that. Have some monochords, work with monochords, sound therapy. This is a high-end bowl, which means it has a lot more harmonics in it versus some of the other bowls. You also, in a higher end bowl, you'll have male and female voices, and you want to try to get them to match. So this, I've Googled every different ailment that people have asked, and 99% of the time it comes up that it does address it, from autism. I worked with kids with Asperger's, ADD.
So it's calming for them, or for different, you have different symptoms and different reactions.
Yeah, and a different knowledge of how to use a specific instrument can help with different things as well.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, like a very very active called Children of All Learning Abilities,
right.
Come in, and I knew that he was very anxious, so I had him smell some essential oils that was very sedative. One of them is called Buddha wood. It's very, very calm, helps to calm the mind, so I had him smell that. I gave the information to the mother so she could see what it was, and so she would know just to have it on her records. Then I brought him to the room, I had the door open, he laid on the ground, I asked permission to place this on his back because I already gained confidence and in what we were doing, and support and safety was always a concern. So I put this on top, and it just started strumming. And he took a deep breath in, he had a big release, he spread his shoulders, he said, "I love my meditation," and he just relaxed and calmed down. When 10 minutes ago he was jumping in every puddle in the parking lot. And Mom was like, thank you. She was, thank you. We use the crystals, they're kind of like a battery, which is why they need to be recharged, either by the moonlight, or one of the quickest ways to recharge would be through the sound, because the sound is very, very high vibrational. So actually the sound is supercharging the crystals to amplify even more. My teacher actually was helping Dr. Emoto with his whole work on the discovery of water and the cleansing. Dr. Emoto had words words that he put on water that would change the subject or what was going on within the water. If you put love, different words that you can help change it. So at that time it wasn't sticking as much, so he kind of helped with that right direction because he knows a lot of people. There's been a few doctors that have been using these different sounds, how they work throughout the body. Your body, all your organs are vibrating differently, so when you're in front of something that makes a lot of sound, it's changing or it's amplifying all the different vibrations throughout your body, and blockages will have a lower vibration. So when the higher vibration is introduced, it will help to create that rumbling effect, that shaking, which shake things up a little bit to allow spaciousness to go inside, to help things to flow freer or flow out. Release blockages. This is an ocean harp, so it makes ocean sounds. I have ocean drums, and I have different mounts that I can use on the gong to actually sound like whales and dolphins. So if I can bring the beach to you while you're in this session, you're actually going to the beach. So if when your eyes are closed, that offers you that spaciousness to go into altering or changing consciousness, which again is why it's kind of important to have an education, because when you're dealing with changing people's consciousness, you need to know a little bit about that.
So where did you learn about that? And it's a lyra, and it helps people.
A lyre. Well, that goes all the way back into Greek mythology, so that's been used to go in and calm all kinds of different things. The monochord I happen to hear about, actually it goes back into Pythagoras tuning, using the monochord, the single string, which uses to figure out the vibration of a harmonic series of creation. It was based on the monochord. But then I learned about monochord therapy and using it on a person's back to open up the blockages in the spine to allow chemical electromagnetic signals to flow through. Also, a person going through chemotherapy, they have a lot of mind chatter about why did they get sick, and all of this, which is depression, and what's going to happen after this, finances in my body, which leads to anxiety. And when you're going through the toughest struggle of your life, being present is very, very important. So anything that you can do to help that person stay present is going to help amplify the body's natural need and wanting to heal itself. So the so-called sound healer is providing something, but what we're doing is we're educating, or we're trying to help a person open up their own innate ability to make their body want to heal itself. Right? So this is an ocean harp. Water is very good because of most of our body, we're dehydrating. We also don't get enough physical water. Plus all the different aspects of water in general. Even like when we go to take a shower, if you can imagine that instead of the water going down the drain, that the shower of water is working with your energy field, because it's going through, helping you with release negative ions, which boosts your immune system and your energy field itself. But that mixing of it with a person that does Reiki, you're now charging that water. It goes down the drain, but you can envision or ask it to go ahead and start to cleanse the water treatment centers, which water evaporates, so it rises up in the clouds, which then rains upon fields and farms and animals. Yes, conch shells are actually they had a very important role in Reiki. Conch shells were used up in the Himalayas, where they came from. They would go on their evening journeys. They would go out either during the full moons, or they'd do the 21-day walk, or even the 40-day walk, where they would carry the conch shells to blow, to signal, not only for different animals that they were coming through, but the sounds themselves, it's a very high pitched sound that universities actually have proven that it destroys bacteria in the air. So when the lamas, monks, or gatherings of people would blow them around water holes before they went into the water, they're also helping to cleanse and to alter, change the water before they work with themselves. This is a wind instrument, so providing a sound of the wind. Well, there's a lot of times people have or chest breathers, so we don't really get a lot of oxygen in the lower part of the body, so we actually need longer, deeper, slower breaths. But also, like healthy babies, they're not able to sleep, so if you were able to provide a sound of a wind instrument while they're trying to sleep, they're going to harmonically match to that, and that could actually help healthy babies. So there's so many different things. Again, the more I study, the more I learn, the more I realize how little we all know, which keeps that feed and that drive going. And then sometimes, when you get actual facts, because things are always evolving, sometimes those facts aren't necessarily as important anymore. Because newer ones take their place and then have a whole different meaning.
Right.
So
part of this is regaining maybe some of the lost knowledge, but also integrating new knowledge. So you have a lot of different, you got a lot to cover.
I like to call it the warehouse of knowledge that you have. So when you're working with each person, every person is different. So one person may like this singing bowl, but another person may like the crystal singing bowl, another person might like the gong. But having a knowledge of different instruments and different things to do, then you can pick out what is best served for that person at that time. And then for just if you do open up a very old blockage or trauma that maybe a person forgot about, maybe a specific sound, like, and there's different levels of how people use the gongs. We're through this 3-year process. I'm going later on this week or this month to go work with a Bonpo Lama. He has 6 doctoring degrees. His monasteries and medicine keepers of the world. They provide different information.
The medicine keepers of the world.
Yeah, they've discovered that 75% of all ailments are created within the brain. So we're learning how to work with the brain, how people thought, how they create certain symptoms. The placebo effect is said to be like one of the medicines of the future. The placebo effect is just as important.
Right.
Don't go out in the rain, you're going to get sick. Water doesn't make you sick, a virus makes you sick. We have 20 books we have to read and write reports on all the books, and one of those is, of course, something, the biology of belief.
Okay.
So your belief system actually does. Yeah. And our goals don't necessarily meet the requirements of what we were taught when we were living.
Right.
Once we learn what things are helping us and what things may be holding us back, and then we can decide to change some of that mindset into correcting, making those adjustments. But when providing sound and positive reinforcement, and a person can let go, they can actually transform into a place that is beautiful for them.
Right.
And when they come back, you're almost choosing what kind of body you're coming back to. So you don't necessarily have to come back with all the stuff that you do. And memories from the past, every time we relive them, they're slightly different. So even though we think that childhood was the same memory, it changed so many times throughout the years that the falling of mankind was falling from the heart into the head, and the ascension is actually ascending from the head back into the heart, because your heart has brain matter. You can think, you can feel from your heart. In fact, anything that you want to succeed in, if your heart is not in it, you will not succeed.
Your heart's 6,000 times more powerful.
Magnetic than the brain and 100 times more electrical than the brain. So that feeds our energy field. And again, everything has to work with the energy field. You can sense when you walk into a room how the feeling is in the room, or how people feel. Right. Police officers, military are trained to feel certain things. They actually teach Navy SEALs not to stare at who they're going to be attacking, because the mere looking is actually could be letting them know that you're coming. So these are very, very powerful things. Yeah. Positive and negative free will, your choice. But that's also coming out into your energy field. That's why some people can see different colors of different emotions, which is also why if going to change a certain, I want to change my auric field, if you invest a lot of money in things like that, that can change with a phone call. You know, so actually learning what it feels like to change that state of being, that would be a little bit more worth your investment, because you have the power of changing and adjusting all these other things versus you know, seeing what's around you at that moment, because the moon changes all the time. My mom went in for a removal, and I went to go see her a couple of days ahead of time, and obviously, you know, she looked the way she looked. I spent an hour with her. I brought the monochord. I played some different sounds. I gave her some different affirmations. I just sat there and was present with her to help keep her out of the fearful states. And when I left, I took a picture of her. My whole family says that that's one of the most beautiful pictures. She was glowing. And this is 3 days before she's going in for the surgery. Then I walked in with her, and instead of her talking about the surgery, she kept saying, "Oh, this is my son. He does Reiki," you know. And so I helped her stay in that moment, and she was out of the hospital. You know, she's supposed to stay there a couple of days. After one day, they said, "You can." I was working with a person that was getting ready for an organ transplant. So we were working with his body to help communicate with his body. So I would create the different sounds to kind of open up that feeling to feel more within. And I had him talk with his body, saying, "Okay, you know, we're going to be making some changes. And I'm going to need you to kind of work with these new parts, and I want to, you know, experience perfect health." So the whole meditation was based on accepting this new organ, the situation, and everything, which helped to calm him down, make him more peaceful. And this actually goes way back in time, because most doctors' offices used to be near water, running water. The mere sound of running water helps to calm a person down. So if a person is going to a doctor to seek treatment, and knowing that there's so many different things in the way, if you could provide certain calming sounds, a sense, some art therapy, you're starting to relax a person. So then when you're talking to them, you can actually go right down into what's really bothering the person versus all the things that are kind of in the way. Basically, if you took these to the ocean and you worked on mimicking sound, then if you brought these to the ocean, you're basically getting the ocean in your body, you're remembering the feeling, how to play. So then when you play for another person, you're bringing the ocean into them, but you're also allowing them to go to the ocean. So that's where the beauty comes in. And then doing it in a gentle way. Again, if one person's doing some reeds, and another person's making some ring sounds, and another person's doing like bell or a chime, and the other person's doing a string instrument or a harp, it's a beautiful soundscape. The person on the table is just like, you know, it's just, you want to give a person the, basically when they get off the table, they're like, I don't have words to what just happened. That's the goal, to give a person an experience that they can't put words to. When I set up these like I'll put the treatment table in the center, and I have the other tables around the outside. They're all at the same level. So when we're playing the different bowls, the sound is going right off the side, so the person is right there on that same horizontal plane. I've had people say that they felt like they were floating on a lake of water of sound, and that it was just beautiful. They've had they've gone to different drumming circles and things like that, but there was just something that was different because there's so many different things. Plus the room, the shape, the size of the room, understanding how the sound moves through air. So understanding that this room is like a ocean or pool of air, to be able to move the sound in a certain way will get the flow to come back. So finding the certain spots that allows that to happen is important. Just like the opposite, when I teach the sound classes, I have people think of dropping pebbles in a fish tank and watching the ripples roll out. Well, the water goes out and interacts with the container, then comes back in, and they work off of the other ripples too, which is understanding how the sound waves are moving. But what happens in the corners is the waves flutter. So if you were doing sound meditation and people's heads were in the corner and you're playing a little bit louder, those are the people that are probably going to be saying they have a headache, because your brain is floating with fluid, and that shaking, your ears all equilibrium, it's going through a lot. So having that understanding of sound, how it works, how it moves around the room, would tell a more experienced person. So going to what you just had mentioned, if I know a person has a certain ailment, say they have a person had a large lump on their arm, so I played certain sounds in a certain way. Again, sound can help, or because you're kind of like, if you can destroy the base of something, or if you destroy the blockage, then you can help it relieve. So I was playing in a certain way to kind of go in to disrupt what was, and then she said that the size of it went down 50%. She says a person not being comfortable with something can be annoying over time. That could relate or go into discomfort. Say you're in a job over a couple of years, that discomfort turns into dis-ease. Dis-ease, the next step goes into disease. So you can be getting sick from a job that you hate because of certain things, and you're actually sick. Each person is personalized. I always start asking, not necessarily for what their story is, but I ask them, what are you here for? What are you looking to relieve? What are you here to help release? What are the areas of concern in your body? So then that will give you an idea. But at the same time, they're giving themselves permission to work on that, because an energy worker is supposed to have permission to do the work. But at the same time, you're giving the person permission to themselves to allow their body to go. So even if I was playing just some sounds and they knew that they were here to help release ABC in their life because it has discomfort, and they're feeling this pleasure and the joy from all the different sounds, sometimes I'll have to say certain things like, I want you to say to yourself, I am safe, I am secure, I am in perfect health, no matter what is going on, and all my needs are met. And just continue to say that, and that's like speaking to the water in your body. You're playing those comfortable sounds, the person's focusing on their breathing. Sometimes I'll just start making some of my own sounds, going into the Egyptian part with the vowel sounds. I've even had fire trucks, because there's a fire station in the hospital, come by, and I don't want to lose the person in the room, so I learned how to make sounds with my own voice that somewhat mimic that, but keep them in the room by changing the way it sounds. So that will come and go, but then I'll keep making, so it kind of holds them there, and they're like, oh, that was amazing, because it like popped in, and it was gone, and you just made these different sounds.
That's really cool.
So that actually falls into a science, which is called the acoustic theory, which is providing different sounds that the person's never heard before. They don't know where it's coming from. You're allowing them to have an experience that is unlike anything else. Usually with your eyes closed, you can have that experience. Whales and dolphins that I'll allow a person to kind of wander off to. musicians that get together and work different techniques called droning, which helps to work with ambient sound, which doesn't really follow a musical protocol. Allows some spaciousness in the brain. But in playing these, also understanding the direction, like this right here, this is actually set up backwards because it's going right into the wall. So if you have a large gong like that up against the wall, and you'll see most people actually play this way, that all the sound is getting slammed into the wall and then pushed outwards because it's using the air. So you're actually greatly restricting the gong, you're restricting its microtonality, you're losing a lot of the sound. They actually, that's why like the gong behind you is turned around backwards. And I play it from the other side, so all the sounds come off here like it's a lighthouse, a big light from a lighthouse. So when you don't necessarily have to play a big gong loud, but you can hear the softer sounds much easier. Larger gong. And if you're doing energy work, like Reiki person, energy out their hands, they're always facing the person. So if I'm on the side, I'm playing into the heart of the gong, and the gong's making a sound. Well, that's where my energy work is also going too. So I'm applying the Reiki through the gong. But if I play the gong the opposite way to the wall, if I'm doing energy work, it's not going to the people. And so there's a little, these are some things that again, that we're taught. Like the music teachers, they're like, we had no idea that you could play the gong. Every spot has a different sound. It goes from the treble into the bass. So we actually play every single note we learn, every little single spot, so we can find the different nodal points that sound different than other points, and then be able to use those to create more sounds. So an experienced person can get a real lot of sound out of one gong, where an inexperienced person will need a lot of gongs to be able to make a lot of different sounds. So
Are there different notes for different gongs?
they have primary fundamental notes. There can also be second and third, 2 or 3 primaries. But the sound also changes. So if I put the meter on it, you would get thicknesses, and every part is different because it's hammered. So each part can have a different sound. If it was a plate metal gong, the thickness is all the same. So you don't get as many different harmonics out of it. They're actually they're within the second harmonics. So it's basically like using a few notes on the piano versus the whole piano, because it's the same thickness of sound. Series, they actually tune them, so they scrape them to create a certain frequency, because that's one of the hypes, the creative plant. So then they're actually taking more sound out of something that already has less sound than a handmade gong. And they charge more for it.
The sound is so beautiful.
So this has a wire that the energy just blossoms But kids with, say, Asperger's, once they learn how to do something, they pretty much got to stay doing that. So when I start to turn it, I'll watch, I'll see their facial expression, like, they're struggling a little bit, which I want. I kind of go into that area, but still have them say, but you're still making beautiful music. Even though life is not going exactly the situation, the pattern that you thought each and every day is going to go, but you can still have beautiful things happen with a day that doesn't fall into that path. So that kind of helps things. I've started singing This Little Light of Mine at sometimes, and all of a sudden people cry, like, oh, that was I really need to hear that. So I'm just listening to what needs to be heard. This is another monochord. It sounds like a sitar.
That's beautiful. Between the crystal and the
crystal bowls will have one specific sound. So this is a C in the fourth octave. It will always stay a C in the fourth octave. The gong, I'll hit it and it's all over the place because it's got the same thing as singing bowls. And the singing bowls, the Tibetan style, the metal, that depending on the alloy or how well they're made, they'll have more voices in them. So some of the ones that are just stamped out, yeah, they still make a sound, but they don't have a lot of variation in that sound. So a person that has more experience and wants to do more things in sound healing would want something with more sound. So in these, you're playing them in a certain way. So I could do that for 10
like
minutes,
church bells.
and probably a person will fall asleep. And there's different sounds. So when I teach people how to hold the handles the right way, how to get the most use out of different mallets, to understand the notes and the sounds, and to kind of educate them from some of the traps or the things. Companies want to sell stuff, so people are always talking about, I need the whole chakra set. Well, if you had to hold the piano, which notes did you want to take home? There's 88, so that would be the same thing. Like, this is a D, where people would say that's a sacral chakra, but this is a D. It's so much higher. Because it's in a different octave. This is a third octave. This is a fourth octave. This is a fifth octave. So there's sets in all these different octaves, and so that's kind of where people hear, I need to have this, or I learned something on the internet, so I want to work with that. But it's really, really important to actually be in front of these and feel which one do you like.
Right.
So right now when I'm playing, which sound do you kind of
I like that
gravitate
blue
to?
one, that small blue one.
This one?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So you wouldn't know that buying it over the internet.
Right, exactly.
It's a D, but you may end up getting this D because you don't necessarily know if it's going to come in which octave. And then how to sing it.
So calming.
So again, working how to make that sound. This would be a level 1 class to teach people how to make nice peaceful sounds for meditation. Then the level 2, once you learn how to play them, now you're basically playing another crystal bowl that makes the one sound, but because you're able to hold it, you can now again use the air. And I can actually use the air to keep it going.
That's beautiful.
So if you were, now I work with on a more of a therapeutic level. So if a person was on a treatment table and their head was over here, I could work with this to help to calm and clear some thoughts. So kind of going in, grabbing their attention, and as I slowly move away, the sounds move away in their head. They're hearing the sound go away, go away, go away, go away, but they don't realize that it's actually drawing out what their deep thought was, or their concern. You know, what are you here to release? And we work on moving that. Also work on hearing, so you can kind of flick it towards one ear, flick it towards the other ear. Valerie Hunt has a YouTube video. It's old, but it gets right to the point, where she has instruments that test. She was the first one to prove the human energy field. So she actually shows on film what was happening around your body when you're by the water, when you're rubbing fresh fruit, when you're eating junk food. The life force is actually being sucked out of you. And then when you're chanting or oming, or when you're playing with a dog or a child, she actually shows you through her. Again, the highest volume of bright colors, whiteness that she got was a mother oming with her child. So she said that's another reason why chanting, oming, vocal toning is very, very powerful, because it adds in that extra.
You also work with chakras and things like that in your practice?
In older studies, they don't find that as important.
Okay.
People get kind of tunnel visioned on those, because if you're working on the whole energy field, the other energy centers will adjust themselves.
Gotcha.
But a person's breathing, their pulse rate, their sleeping rhythms, their biorhythms, the cranial fluids, the body fluids, there's so many more important things that people should be paying attention to versus something.
Chakras.
Yeah, because even testing and feeling those, kind of like the aura, that can change with a phone call. So I've even done it with a pendulum. I've held it over and had a person think a certain way, and it works a certain way. And then I'll go to change it, and they'll feel good. But then they're saying, if you're changing something, aren't you altering their karma? If you're altering their karma, isn't that doing something to your karma? So I mean,
That's tricky.
It just opens up this big world. So we're working the whole energy field. What happens with them chanting or oming, or when you're playing with a dog or a child. She actually shows you through her study.
Barbara Hunt?
Yeah.
I can check it on YouTube.
Valerie Hunt.
Valerie Hunt.
Valerie Hunt. Yeah. So again, the highest volume of bright colors, whiteness that she got was a mother oming with her child. So she said that's another reason why chanting, oming, vocal toning is very, very powerful, because it adds in that extra thing, which again, everything's under these.
And then you also work with chakras and things like that in your practice?
In older studies, they don't find that as important.
Okay.
People get kind of tunnel visioned on those, because if you're working on the whole energy field, the other energy centers will adjust themselves.
Gotcha.
But a person's breathing, their pulse rate, their sleeping rhythms, their biorhythms, the cranial fluids, the body fluids, there's so many more important things that people should be paying attention to versus something.
Chakras.
Yeah, because even testing and feeling those, kind of like the aura, that can change with a phone call. So I've even done it with a pendulum. I've held it over and had a person think a certain way, and it works a certain way. And then I'll go to change it, and they'll feel good. But then they're saying, if you're changing something, aren't you altering their karma? If you're altering their karma, isn't that doing something to your karma? So I mean,
That's tricky.
It just opens up this big world. So we're working the whole energy field. What happens with them happens with them.
So if you heal the whole energy field, it'll all take care of itself.
You're providing, you're adding to the energy field a different substance through vibration or energy, where you're altering the person's energy field.
Right.
Whatever is going to merge with them for their highest good, that's what the goal is.
Right.
And then having them find their own innate abilities. Like people come for a service, but you don't want them to really, I mean, most people say, yeah, I want to have a regular clientele, but you're actually getting that person to have an attachment to you, you know, where it's also our job to teach them, hey, you have all these abilities inside you, so I'm going to work on showing you how to do this yourself. And it may take some time, some classes, some instruments, but this is the goal, is to help you, not me help you.
Right.
And then that helps take the ego away from the person that's teaching it, because then they're not walking around like, I am the healer.
Right.
You know, I'm providing a service to help people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Humanity has been on an epic journey of discovery, learning the truth about the world we live in. New discoveries about the true origins of humanity, ancient history, free energy, as well as the systematic corruption of world governments are now on the forefront of our daily reality. Is the world headed towards destruction based on control and power? Or is an opportunity now being presented to shift and uplift into a higher consciousness? My name is Mel V, co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, an independent broadcast network that was launched on the 1st of January 2015. In the last 3 years, Conscious Consumer Network has broadcast over 2,800 shows in multiple languages, featuring guests from across the world, whilst creating media that is aimed at the creation of a free, fair, peaceful, just, sustainable world. Conscious Consumer Network provides full training and an interactive support network for all broadcasters, and we are always looking for inspiring and educational content.
Hi, this is Lady Liberty.
And this is Mira Siegel.
In 2018, Conscious Consumer Network has expanded to multiple broadcast locations, increasing our availability and reach across the world, remaining on the cutting edge of independent media. If we wish to create a better world, we must first create better media, geared towards real education instead of indoctrination.
You guys really are what changing the world is going to be about. It's educating kids at a grassroots level.
Having become a pillar of stability in the turbulent world of independent media, we have even more going on in 2018. Conscious Consumer Network is a publicly funded network, and we rely on all of you to keep us on the air. Show your support for independent media by donating to our 2018 Network Support Fund. Dare to seek a better world. Support independent media.